shirts out. We promise we know it's hot, but we are hotter than anything that can stop us. So thank you, guys. We're starting in a couple minutes. All right, folks. When I say restore, you say row. Restore. Restore. When I say restore, you say row. Restore. Restore. When I say fight, you say freedoms. Fight for our All right, ladies and gentlemen, to begin our program, please welcome your congresswoman from right here in the city of Richmond, Jennifer McClellan.
Good morning, Richmond. Good morning, Richmond. How are you? I know it's hot, so I'm just going to get right to it. I know you're fired up because it's hot out here. Ready to go. We are ready to go, but you know what? Today is a solemn day. Today is the second anniversary of when I became the first generation of my family to lose a constitutional right in my lifetime. Today is the second anniversary of when I had to worry about, will my daughter have the same peace of mind of knowing that her decisions will determine her fate rather than someone in Washington or Richmond. Today is the second anniversary of the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe versus Wade. I was a month old when Roe was decided. I lived almost my entire childbearing years under the knowledge that the decision of when, how, and whether to become a parent would be mine. I made history in Virginia as the first member of the House of Delegates to be pregnant while in office. At a time when the Republicans in the General Assembly were trying to make someone who needed an abortion have a transvaginal ultrasound before they could do it. I stood up and I fought back. And then with my daughter, we both almost died in childbirth, but when I was wheeled into the emergency, I knew my doctor could make decisions based on what was best for her patients and not second guess, could I get arrested if things go wrong? I fought back, and thanks to you, when we got a Democratic trifecta, we made Virginia a safe haven for abortion by removing the medically unnecessary barriers Republicans put in place. And now, because of Dobbs, but because of the hard work we did together, Virginia is the only state in the South without an abortion ban or extreme restrictions. We can be proud of that. But that can all go away depending on what happens this November. Because if you think Dobbs was the beginning, it wasn't. Donald Trump made very clear that it wasn't just about getting an anti-choice Supreme Court. It wasn't just about bans. But now they're coming after contraception. Now they're coming after IVF. Are we going to let them? No! The decisions for what to do with your body should be yours. Your health care decisions should be between you and your provider. It should not be Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, or Glenn Youngkin deciding. It should be you. And we are going to fight back. And this November, we are going to reelect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because they are the only candidates. They are only candidates who are fighting for your reproductive freedom. And oh, by the way, we're going to take back the House. And we're going to send Tim Kaine back, and we're going to keep the Senate, and we will protect reproductive freedom. Now, when Republicans tried to roll back the progress we made, they ran into a blue brick wall in the Senate. And the leader of that blue brick wall, who was chair of the Education and Health Committee, who needs no introduction, when they tried to roll back our rights, she said, "Not on my watch." She actually said something a little stronger than that. But I'm going to let her say it because my daughter has a curse purse. And if I curse, I got to pay into it. Senator, President Pro Tem of the Senate, Louise Lucas.
Well, you all know why I'm walking with this cane. I had total knee surgery for keeping my foot up Glenn Youngkin's ass all Sunday. Now, while it's my pleasure to join you on this beautiful morning in the park, it is unfortunate that we gather on the anniversary of Dobbs' decision, which denied us the right to reproductive health. This is a right that was granted to us by Roe v. Wade decision on January 22nd, 1973, which was on my 29th birthday, so this is very significant to me. That's right. So, you just counted up my age, didn't you? A landmark decision that once symbolized hope and progress, but now serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for bodily autonomy and reproductive justice. Listen, folks, our democracy is under heavy attack, and Virginia has gone through a lot these last few years. I remember the day that Youngkins came into office. Matter of fact, it was his first time getting elected to anything. And people on standby just to see how this new guy was coming into office and how he was going to act. Some pundits said that he was going to be the moderate, effective governor that was going to be the governor who worked across the aisle and would be the example for Republicans across the country to follow. Welp, fast forward to today, 3 years later, and it's pretty clear that Governor Youngkins was just another ineffective MAGA placeholder. I mean, at one point, he even thought that he was going to be the next president of the United States. Can you believe that shit? But in all seriousness, over the past several years, we've seen Republicans' true colors. From convicted felon nominee Donald Trump, who was running just to stay out of prison, to the mega House Republicans who couldn't elect and protect their own Speaker of the House, to Glenn Youngkins, who tried time and time again to pass reproductive restrictions on reproductive health and abortion ban in Virginia, and each time he tried it, we said, hell no. It's clear that these Republicans don't care about any of you. They don't give a damn about anybody but themselves and their rich friends. Now, let me say it again, folks. Our democracy is under heavy attack, and we cannot afford a Republican-controlled governor. We cannot afford a Republican-controlled Congress. There's just too much at stake. Our freedoms are at stake. Freedom to vote, freedom to contraception, freedom over our bodies, freedom to make our own decisions, and don't let anyone tell you that this isn't their plan. We all remember when Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022. We're here in Virginia. I remember that we saw thousands of people mobilize in the streets to send a message to those who wanted to take us back beyond the dark times. And now the battle for our reproductive freedoms are in the states. Though we all remember that day as one of the worst days for our country, I was still inspired. I was inspired by the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who vowed that they would not just stand by and let it be. I felt that hope was there. And ever since that day, we have made our voices heard. We won big in 2022. We flipped the House and held the Senate in 2023. But even with an overwhelming victory in 2023, it's clear that our work is not done. Our governor and mega Republicans continue to try to impede our progress. It was just several weeks ago, even though Virginians have overwhelmingly and repeatedly shown strong support for reproductive rights, Governor Youngkins chose to veto the right to contraception. Can you believe that crap? The governor once again has shown that his political agenda and alignment with extremists are more important than the will of Virginia people. So this coming election, we have to mobilize again. We have to send a message to these mega Republicans by electing Joe Biden, Tim Kaine, and Democrats up and down the ballot. This election is about freedom versus tyranny. This election is about competency versus chaos. This election is about good, honest a good, honest man versus a vengeful extremist. This election is about Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, plain and simple. Look, our struggle is not just for ourselves, but for our future generations. What type of world do we want for our children and our grandchildren? And I know by voting for Democrats, I'm voting for a world where dignity, autonomy, and equality are not just ideas, but lived realities. Thank you all for listening. Make sure when you go to the poll, take every living, breathing person you can find. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lucas. You know, I miss serving with Senator Lucas, but I do now get to serve with some badass women. And since Sammy's not here, it's okay for me to say that. I serve with some badass women in Congress. It is my pleasure to introduce one of them. She may not be there much longer, but I think we're going to still have an honorable before her name pretty soon. That is Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger from the 7th District.
As we all stand here, stand steady, stand up for our rights, I would remind everyone, do not lock your knees in this heat. Keep flexing them. We need to be here not just in this heat, but for the long haul where we stand up for our rights, we stand up for our freedoms, we stand up for the rights and the freedoms of the kids and the little kids. Thank you for being here. As we talk about what is important, Jen said it best when she noted that she had more rights as a young woman than her daughter does. I have 3 daughters, 15, 13, and 10. And the reality is that as we see attacks on abortion rights, on contraception, on IVF, these are attacks on the rights and the freedoms of our fellow citizens and of our future generations here in the United States. And we must stand up against those attacks. And 2 years ago, I was on the House floor when that decision came down, and immediately you could see, you could feel it reverberated. Because suddenly, something that for anybody who had campaigned, you knew, oh, Roe versus Wade is settled law. No, no longer. The Dobbs decision took that all away. And so as, like so many people here, my phone started ringing. It was friends, it was college roommates, it was old neighbors, it was Democrats, it was Republicans, it was independents, it was people who never had an interest in politics before because they had never before seen rights rolled back. And it has been 2 years of organizing and action and a focus and a desire to say, this is not what we, the people, the voters, Virginians, or Americans want. And so this November is our chance to once again at the ballot box say, this is unacceptable. You cannot attack our freedoms. You cannot roll back our rights. And to be very clear, in Virginia, we are in a place where we have seen people, desperate people, come from other states because Virginia is the only state in the South that has not put additional restrictions in place. And as a result of standing up for our rights as that brick wall in the state Senate, President of the Senate needed a full-on knee replacement. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to the Virginia State Senate. We were proud in 2023 to take a stand to use our voices and our votes and ensure a Democratic majority in the House of Delegates. And once again, the task is ours in Virginia to ensure a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. We must elect our strong, extraordinary candidates who are on the ballot this November. Chief among them right here in the city of Richmond, Jennifer McClellan, who... Richmond, you all should be proud. The day she arrived in Congress after her special election, we were already rocking and rolling. Things were already busy. And day one, it's like she had been there for years. Because when you send experience and focus and dedicated leadership to Washington, they work. But what Jennifer McClellan and the others in the House of Representatives needs is a Democratic majority. They need a Senate majority, so we need to send Tim Kaine on back. And we need a president of the United States who will sign the bill codifying our rights, codifying what existed under Roe into law. That is on the ballot this year. And so when we are voting this November, we are voting for our rights, we are voting for our freedoms, and importantly, we are voting for the next generation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Abigail. So, this is going to take everybody, not just elected officials, but organizers, voters, people knocking on doors, and surrogates from Hollywood to Richmond, from Nashville to Austin, everywhere in between. We have got to get out and make sure we are turning out the vote. And that is why we have someone, a very special guest here to help us get fired up. You know her from Heat, very appropriate. You know her from Kiss the Girls. You know her from Double Jeopardy. But what you may not know is she has also been a fighter for women's rights. She has been fighting against violence against women. She has been fighting for all of us. She continues that fight today. Ashley Judd.
Good morning, Commonwealth of Virginia. Kentuckian here, I know my Commonwealths. You are beautiful. Thank you for coming out in this heat, and it is good indeed to be in community and fellowship with you. You know, I've learned in my recovery that we can pretend to care, but we cannot pretend to show up. So thank you for showing up for girls and women, for boys and men, and for families. And I uplift your voices and I uplift your presence. And I acknowledge you, Senator Lucas, Representatives Spanberger and McClellan, for your leadership and your courage, and for the way that you continue to show up for the citizens of Virginia. So we need these female-to-female alliances, right? We need mentorship. And my godmother was a great one for me, and she, like I, was from Eastern Kentucky, and she instilled in me from early girlhood that all women should be able to choose if and when and how many children to have, and that ideally we should be able to plan and space the births of those children so that we could optimally care for the kids we have in our bodies in a healthy and good way. And as everyone knows, contemplating becoming a mother or a parent is a profoundly human endeavor. It is the realm of humanity. Whether it's our first pregnancy or our fourth, this is a solemn and sacred and giddy, exhilarating, and sometimes terrifying proposition. It rests in our hearts and our souls, and it is the domain of personal relationships. And it involves circumstances that are deeply practical: our light bill, our pocketbooks, housing, social support. And it often involves faith and prayer. And what it should not, in this list of inventory, ever include is the United States government. Is the regulation and control of our wombs by federal agencies. These are our internal vital organs. These are our eggs. Authority. How and why does the United States government have the audacity to declare itself the authority over our insides and our God-given, life-earned capacity to make informed choices for ourselves about if we can and should bring another mouth to feed and to care for into our families? I love this word authority. A friend of mine pointed out to me that the root of the word is author. I am the author of my life. I write my life story. Men in state legislatures and the federal government and the Supreme Court should not be writing my story, to the utter legal exclusion of my ability and right to live out the story that the God of my understanding and I craft together. And I believe that the men and women who support them should not be writing your story or any girl and woman's story either. The reasons a woman may need to end a pregnancy are so many and so varied. As we know, the majority of women who need abortions are already mothers. And the children they already love may gravely suffer if another child is brought into her family, stretching that mama beyond her capacity to meet the emotional, developmental, and financial needs of her child. She knows best, not the politicians campaigning for re-election. Their economics are life and death. Many women simply cannot afford to become mothers for a first or a repeat time. Motherhood involves job insecurity, pregnancy discrimination, transportation, healthcare, childhood housing. Even before Roe was overturned, which was settled law. Check this out. Restrictive abortion laws cost states and local economies $105 billion annually by reducing our participation in the labor force and earning levels when we were forced to have children. It seems the right really does want us serially pregnant and poor. I also argue for the right to be pregnant. That's why I call it reproductive justice, and have safe pregnancies free from government meddling and interference. I don't know if you saw this, but this is extraordinary to me. 34% of women between 19 and 49 now say that they or someone they know will no longer become a mother. They're constraining our desire to become mothers because they are so worried that if they have a pregnancy a complication during pregnancy, they could not access the abortion care that they might need to save their life. Their life choice, which is human, not political, is being taken away from them. And just yesterday, it was shared by a healthcare network that 68% of doctors say that the criminalization of abortion worsened their ability to manage a pregnancy-related emergency, not to provide abortion care, but to provide pregnancy care. We are clear. Abortion is health care. It saves the lives of women who would otherwise die during crisis and miscarriage. Doctors take the Hippocratic Oath. Yet the other presidential candidate and so many in the Republican Party want to prosecute doctors, and in some states, send them to prison for life for caring for us. We have to craft this story ourselves about abortion and family planning. Did you know that 87% of articles about abortion quote politicians and don't reference a doctor? And that only 8% of those stories include reference to a person who's actually had a real abortion? My story includes abortion. A guy I'd known since I was a kid raped me, and when I became pregnant, I was so grateful that I was able to access a safe and legal abortion for many reasons, including the fact that in Kentucky and Tennessee, rapists have paternity rights. Check it out on RAINN, Rape and Incest National Network. 43 states allow rapists paternity rights. Incredible. So you get to co-parent with your rapists where abortion is illegal. Welcome to rape culture and patriarchy. Welcome to Donald Trump's Supreme Court, where he appointed 3 appointees, where he will appoint more justices if he is elected, where he has described the overturning of abortion in America, a beautiful thing to watch. We are here today because we know ourselves and we know our stories and we know where our polling booths are. And we know exactly for whom we are voting. And we know the only candidates who understand that choosing, planning, and spacing the births of our children, including at times the tough choice to terminate a pregnancy, is not about politics. It is not about government. It is about our very lives. As President Joe Biden has already signed 3 executive orders safeguarding access to abortion, including medical abortion, fighting to ensure emergency access to medical care, and expanding access to contraception, which, as we all know, is the most effective way to reduce the need for abortion. We are the authors and authorities of our family lives, not Donald Trump. He shouldn't be in charge of anything. As Gloria Steinem says, democracy starts at our skin. I am so looking forward to casting my vote this November for the Biden-Harris ticket seeing Roe restored and making sure that everyone has equal access to the modern family planning method that works best for her at each stage of her life. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your care. I love you. It's so good to be in Virginia. Thank you.
All right, Richmond, let's go win.